Thanks for tuning in to George's Car Vids. This is going to be a little bit different series of videos. It's probably a 2, maybe even a 3-part series. I'm going to focus on trade-ins. This is something that I don't think most people that make car content really talk about, is trading a vehicle in. So, first part of this video, I'm going to talk about an actual trade-in. You go and trade your vehicle in, and what a dealership looks at as far as coming up with a number, as far as figuring out what your vehicle's worth. I'm actually driving a vehicle today that's a trade-in that goes back to Evansville, so I'm going to use it as an example of things that you'll get dinged on a trade-in and things to expect. Probably in the second video, I'm going to actually take a vehicle that I own. We'll put it into KBB. We'll talk about how the different valuations work, how you should grade them, and what those numbers actually mean. So that'll be more of part 2. So part 1 today, I've got an 08 Honda Civic that we took in on trade. We're going to walk around it. I've already driven it, so I know mechanically what this car needs. We're going to talk about what affects the value. When I was a used car manager, I just sell now, but as used car manager, what somebody looks at as far as appraisal. So I'm going to shut up. I'm going to go ahead and get ready, and we're going to take a look at this 2008 Honda Civic, and we'll talk about the things that would have to be fixed on it that are actually considered in the value, and we'll talk about some good points. I'm also going to show you a couple vehicles that I've traded for with interiors, talking about how you take care of a vehicle, because that is the most important thing. People come in all the time and they're mad about the number on their car or whatever, and a lot of times it has to do with condition. You know, cars are going to be worth so much money, but it ain't going to be worth all the money if it's not in good condition. So as we walk around this car, I'm going to talk about condition. I'm actually going to show you a few examples of cars that are what I would consider, I'm going to show you some videos, some cars that I would consider to be in good condition trading in, and some that this is why they're not worth anything. So let's go ahead and stop this here, and I'm going to go ahead and walk around the Civic and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so as we walk around this thing, the first thing I'm going to tell you, nothing I'm going to show you as far as damage on this car, I would even consider fixing before I trade in a car this old with this many miles. This car's got 222,000 miles. But overall, this is not a bad car. This is what I would consider being in decent shape and being what I would consider a decent trade-in. A little bit too old, a little bit too miley for us to retail, but this is going to still make somebody a good car. So let me show you a couple things. Off the bat, you're going to notice the paint. So the paint's not in good condition. To repaint a car is expensive. Now on a car this old, you don't expect perfection. Like, everything you see is something, if I was buying this car for myself, or things I could live with. So for instance, bumper cracks like this, paint peeling like this, you can order a painted bumper for almost any car for about $350, but you're going to have to pay somebody to install it unless you're doing it yourself. So to actually fix that and make it right, you're talking $700-800. Somebody could respray this car and make it a lot better. Again, this is an older car with high mileage, but I'm just showing you things that will impact negatively on an appraisal. So that's about the only thing this car really has bad going for it. No check engine lights. I mean, you've got stuff like this. I wouldn't fix this on a car like this before it was traded, but these are all things that are going to impact the value, because if this car had good fresh paint and no body damage, it's going to be worth a lot more money than a car that does. Now, one thing this car does have going for it, it's got a good matching set of 4 tires. That's important, because if your tires are bad, whether it's something if it's something on wholesale, I'm not going to spend money on tires, but it's going to affect the value of the vehicle, whether I retail it or wholesale it. If I got to put tires on it, I got to ask more money for the car. It's also less money I can give the customer for the car because I have to put tires on it. So you're gonna walk to the back. I mean, you've got clear coat fading on this car. Again, this affects the value to a point, but it's not something on a car this old and this miley that I would fix. Again, with the bumper, you know, you've got some cracks here. You could probably sand this, put a little skim coat on it, and repaint these bumpers, or you can just order another bumper. But things like these are all things that will impact the value. I don't care what kind of car it is. A car without body damage and stuff like this is obviously going to be worth more money. So if you come into a dealership and your car has these issues, expect it to be worth less money. It doesn't make your car worth less, as in useless or anything like that, but it affects the value. And we're going to get into that with KBB. I'm actually going to take one of my cars, we'll throw it in KBB, we're going to do a walk around, we're going to do an honest assessment of it and get an honest number, look at private party values and all that good stuff. And then probably in a third video, I'm probably going to get into whether it's worth trading a car in or not, and talk about scenarios where it may be worth trading a car in, or where it might be to your advantage to sell it private party. So we'll talk about that. That's probably going to be the third video in this series. One thing this car does have going for it is the interior. So the interior of this car is clean. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to cut in some video right here, and I'm going to show you a car that's actually filthy so you can see the difference. This is the most extreme example of a dirty trade-in. This is probably the worst trade-in I've taken in 20 years of being in the business. As a matter of fact, this thing threw a rod on me and stuck me on the side of the road for dang near 2 hours. Actually threw up on the side of the road because the smell of this thing was so disgusting that I couldn't keep my food down. I'm going to open this up in just a second, and you're going to get a real feel. Now, something like this is, like I said, extreme. This is probably the nastiest trade-in I've ever taken in. But a car like this, I mean, I think I might have put $200-300 bucks in this thing at best. I mean, it was filthy, it was disgusting, and again, it made me throw up. But cars like this is a prime example of cars that are not going to bring all the money when you trade them. This one isn't as bad on the interior. This is one we got from the auction. This 2018 Santa Fe Ultimate Limited. As you can see, just muddy as can be on the inside. Stuff just caked. Obviously, for us to retail this, we had to do a full teardown detail to it, which costs more money, which also, goes into a factor when we figure out, what we're going to pay for one at the auction. So if this thing would have been clean, obviously it would have brought more money at the sale. So that's something when you're figuring out trading or buying a vehicle from the auction or, from a customer, this is something you got to take into consideration. It's also something that at the same time, it does affect the value of your vehicle, how you maintain it. Because the first thing I think when I see this is this how you did the inside, how did you do the maintenance? This is clean. You look under the seat covers. The seat covers are a first red flag. If you're a customer, you come in a car with seat covers, this is the first thing I'm doing, just so you know. I'm going to see what's under them, because for a dealer, for me being an appraiser, this is the biggest red flag in the world, because first thing I wonder is what you're hiding. I've seen customers hide way more things on a car than an auction would ever think about. So that's one of the first things I look at. The interior of this thing's in really good shape. Nothing that I don't see won't clean up. It's not beat up and tore up. No check engine lights on. That's another thing. If it's got a check engine light on, a lot of times I'll code it to try to get an idea, because it's going to cost X amount of money to turn warning lights off and stuff like that, which also affects the value of a vehicle. So, you get in this one, like I said, ice cold air, 222,000 miles. So I've driven this now from basically 45 miles. When they drove it on appraisal, he said, it felt like it drove a little funky. I think it needs brakes and rotors. I think it probably needs a CV axle or a wheel bearing. Maybe a combination of the both. But it's got something going on in the front. I think it's probably very, very, very minor. Again, this thing needs brakes. It needs, all that stuff adds up for a dealer. And you can only go so far with a vehicle. So, again, are they things that, are they things that I would fix on a car like this before I trade in? Absolutely not. But at the same time, I wouldn't expect top dollar for something that's going to need things. You know, that's something I think there's a little bit of a disconnect in that between the customer and the dealer, and I'll kind of get into that here in just a second. One thing I think dealers and consumers alike both forget in a transaction like this, where you're trading a vehicle in and you're buying a vehicle. You know, as a salesman, you're buying my vehicle, but us as a dealership, we're also buying your vehicle from you. Yeah, they call it trade-in, but in a real sense of the word, you're selling me that vehicle and I'm agreeing to pay a price for it. Now, that price is dependent on things that I have to do to get it up to shape, or things that people are going to notice when I send it to the auction that it needs, that's going to impact the value of that vehicle. And there's a lot of programs out there for dealers, Max Digital, B Auto, you know, it combs auction data. You know, like if I put this car in and I put the mileage in, you know, recon wise, I'd probably put $500 in, but I'd probably figure $1,500 in recon and see where it hit me. So again, if those were things I didn't have to do, that car would potentially be worth $1,500 more money. Now, is it worth it to go out and do all those things for you traded in? That's something that you have to decide as a consumer. But keep in mind, when you go trade a vehicle in and it's got a few things wrong with it, and the dealer actually catches it in the appraisal, that car is going to be worth less money to that dealer. Because when we buy that vehicle from you, you know, if we retail it, we're going to spend the money. If we wholesale it, you know, it's going to go for less money because it's got things it needs. You know, if this thing went through the auction lit up like a Christmas tree, it'd be worth way less money than what it is, you know, running and driving with a check engine light. So I think these are things that a lot of times consumers don't realize. And in the next video, what I'm going to show you, I'm going to take my 2016 Chevy Traverse with like 143,000 miles. We'll do a walk around of it. We will put it in, I'll put it in Carvana. We will put it in CarMax. We'll throw it in KBB. And then we'll try JD Power as well, and try to get an idea of where the values are, and really talk about, you know, the conditions with KBB, you know, what each condition, at least what I consider the conditions are really mean. Because one thing when customers, and we'll get into it in the video, is condition of your vehicle. You have to be honest about it. So again, you know, if this is something you guys would like to see, I'm going to shoot a couple more videos, you know, geared a little more towards this. If there's questions you have, please leave me a comment. I try to answer everybody. There's no such thing as a dumb question. If there's questions you have about trade-ins, I'll try to give you the best answer I can possibly give you. Again, thanks for tuning in. I don't know when I'll do the part 2, maybe here in a week or so. But if there's a bunch of interest in this, I may go ahead and shoot a little sooner. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.